Hello and welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Invitational in New Jersey. My name is Ruben Bressler and I am joined by Invitational superstar, four-time top 8 competitor, consecutive top 8 competitor, Shaheen Soorani. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
And you've brought red-green aggro to the table.
Yes.
No,
yes.
I'm kidding. We've brought Esper control as per usual, but if you're going to talk Esper, you have to talk to Shaheen and see where we're going with the deck list. So, a lot has changed. M14 is now out. The metagame's shifted in a lot of strange directions. Junk Reanimator not as important as it used to be. Jund way bigger than it's ever been, basically. And you've made a couple of interesting changes. So we're going to start off with your control package. The main draw for Esper, to me, is to be able to play far and away, and especially Warped Physique. You were talking to me before we started recording that Warp Physique is better than Doomblade in a lot of important ways. What are some examples of why Warp Physique is better?
I'd say almost in every way it's better. I think that the Warp Physique drawback is very minimal. You can't kill bigger guys, so maybe a Rurik Thar might give you a hard time, or some other expensive things like Angel of Serenity. But for the most part, you don't want spot removal to hit the big game stuff. It's mainly for turns 1 through 4, where Warp Physique takes care of everything. They have Olivia Volderin, you can't kill with Doomblade. They have Falconwrath the Aristocrat, can't kill with Doomblade. The High Priest can't kill with, even the Cartel Aristocrat. Any of those early drops in those junk decks or in the Aristocrat decks are unkillable with Doomblade. Right. To the point where it's almost as bad as like Victim of the Night against a zombie deck. You can't even cast it.
Sure. Yeah, so, and also being able to take down Falconwrath Aristocrat, giving it the minus instead of just killing it outright, very important. So that's one of the major draws. And of course, hitting the 6 drops, not as big a deal because you can usually counter those or deal with it with far and away or something else.
A wrath effect.
Right. And so one of the big discussions in its entire life in Standard, basically, is Supreme Verdict against Terminus. Which one do you want more of? Which one's more important? At the beginning of Return to Ravnica, Terminus was just better because of all the zombies decks, all of the Undying. Then there was a long time in the middle where Supreme Verdict was better because of all the creatures that were around. The only one that did anything after you played Supreme Verdict was Thragtusk. Everything else was just better to Wrath. But now, we have white-black humans, we have junk aristocrats, we have regular aristocrats, everything's a doomed traveler, the best doomed traveler ever, Voice of Resurgence is out there. So what's your split on Supreme Verdict and Terminus this weekend?
I'm still 3-2. 3 Verdict, 2 Terminus. I think Terminus is very good. I think there's a lot of Esper players that play 4 Terminus. However, I'm one of those players who likes to grind down, get down to 3, 4, 5 life, and have it in my own hands rather than depend on a Miracle Terminus. I like to have the Verdict early to survive. Obviously, a Miracle Terminus is always better than a Verdict early on. But still having 2 Terminus allows you to deal with those Voice of Resurgences, to deal with those in-game regenerating
Virals and things like that.
And I think that you need a split. I don't think you can go one way or the other. Every Esper list I had prior to this had 4 Supreme Verdict, 0 Terminus. I think those days are over. And I think if you're going to play Esper up until rotation, it needs to be some kind of split so you can deal with everything.
Sure. Another one of the big draws of playing the Esper deck is you have an end game land in Nephalia Drownyard.
Right.
Days are long gone where that can be your only win condition. Right. You now have Aetherling, which is just a better win condition.
Best one they've made in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. For any blue deck, it's just absolutely perfect for what you want to be doing. But you do have a third win condition in your deck. So, I imagine wins like maybe 3% of your games.
For me, very few, but for other Esper lists, much more when they play 2 of them.
Yeah. And we're talking about Jace Memory Adept in your main deck. So talk to me about why you're running Jace.
Okay.
That Jace.
I cut a certain other card in my deck that allowed me to finish games.
Which we'll get to later. That's actually very important.
Yeah, and with that being removed, Jace Memory Adept gives you another way to end the game quickly. You can't sit around against these decks like you used to be able to. The old blue-black control decks, you just can't build them out. You really have to close games out because creatures are just too powerful. A Scavenging Ooze turns into a 9/9 later in the game. They can play an Olivia Volderin, kill a couple guys, Snapcasters you haven't played, and it's automatically just this powerhouse that needs to be dealt with. So you don't have the luxury of Icy Grip controlling them and then ending the game in 20-30 minutes. You need to end it quick, and Jace is one of those ways to end it very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a threat that they just have to deal with immediately.
And with the new Legend rule gone.
Right, and so because the new Legend rule is gone, you've actually had to change your deck up more than I've seen pretty much any other deck. First of all, you added the other Jace. You have Jace Architect of Thought in your deck, in addition to your Tamiyo and your Soorani, which are traditional Esper planeswalkers, but you're able to play both Jaces. Has the situation come up where you've had to deal with the Jace rule yourself?
Yeah, the -2 on Jace has allowed me to dig, and if I have a memory dip to replace it, I pretty much swiftly replace it. The big change about the old rules compared to the new rules is that with you cannot run just 3 Architect of Thought and get away with it in the control mirror. I was able to legend rule their Jace memory depth away and have my Jace out first because it's cheaper,
right?
And then they can never play their Jace because it's not worth it, and they have to wait till they find another way to do with mine.
Right, but because of the way the rules work, you can control Jace and they can have a Jace.
And you'll lose that game.
And you'll lose
time.
that game. So you've actually upped your count of Detention Spheres.
Yes.
To 3.
Yes.
From 2 or 1.
2 and then a 1 at one point, and now it's 3 solid.
It has to be up to that, and you've also a much heavier burden on Dissipate.
Right.
Also.
Yeah.
So Detention Sphere is your main answer.
Yeah, Detention
for
Sphere.
Opposing Planeswalkers.
Yeah, the scary part is, and this goes in the Jund matchup and the control mirror, is that you have to Detention Sphere the problem card because of this card we're going to mention. It's not there anymore to provide board presence. So if you Detention Sphere, you really have to just pray and keep your fingers crossed that they don't Abrupt Decay it, they don't O-ring it, they don't Renounce the Guilds it, because if they do, you're going to lose the game.
Right.
But luckily, a lot of my matches, especially in the Open in Richmond last week, my only losses were to Jund once, which is the worst matchup, and then this white weenie deck that just crushed everybody.
Sure.
Went to the top 8 undefeated. Is that luckily they only have 1 or 2 Abrupt Decays in their deck, so the Detention Sphere up to 3 has been a real success. That's the true success of the changes there.
Absolutely, yeah. Not a ton takes out enchantments these days, especially main deck. I've seen a slight uptick in Golgari Charm, so you might get some splash damage from Bant Hexproof, some splash damage from Cursive Deshole picking up, but being an enchantment is the least targetable thing that you can be in today's metagame. This card that we've been teasing, it's not in this list.
It's gone.
I'm sorry, but Lingering Souls is no longer in Esper control. What gives, man?
And if I feel bad, I wrote an article recently with Lingering Souls still in the deck, and that was it was before I decided last weekend to take Lingering Souls out. It was never very synergistic with Esper. It was a good win condition post Supreme Verdict. It stalled early on. It allowed you to survive, but it simply is so bad against Jund. It makes Bonfire good against you when Bonfire should be horrendous against you. It makes Golgari Charm and determine minusing tokens, killing Planeswalkers. It gives you a false sense of security to protect Planeswalkers. So there's so much hate for the 1/1s now. It's like you said, Cursive Deshole. There's graveyard hate with Scavenging Ooze. I can't even play Lingering Souls on turn 3 without it being removed. Legacy cards are breaching into standard, hurting Lingering Souls. And it's only good against aggressive decks and the control mirror, and every other mid-range deck has just been unplayable against.
Right, yeah, and against aggressive deck, it's just Moment's Peace. Like, it's not that, and even then, they have Gorklan Rampager.
Yeah. It's lost its flair. It's probably been bad for about 6 months, but I love Lingering Souls.
Right, oh, no, who doesn't? And I know it's weird when you say the sentence, Lingering Souls is bad against Jund.
Yeah.
Because in Modern, you added Lingering Souls
to beat the Jund mirror.
To beat the Jund mirror. That's what you did.
Yeah.
And so, to say that,
I think Lingering Souls is much more powerful in the older formats. I think it's just better in Legacy and better in Modern. Yeah.
Well, you don't play Bonfire of the Damned in the same deck that you play Bloodbraid Elf.
Right.
So that was sort of a nombo back at the time.
Yeah.
Let's quickly turn our attention to the sideboard. You have a couple cards that I think most people are used to by this point. We have the aforementioned Cursive Deshole to be able to deal with all of the tokens decks, all of the Junk Aristocrats, things like that. Is there anything else specifically that you want Cursive Deshole against?
Any of those people that are still playing my older lists with Lingering Souls is good against, or any Lingering Souls decks, period. I bring it against Bant Hexproof because kills Invisible Stalker, makes Geist a lot less threatening, and you have a lot of dead cards to remove anyway.
Right. When Geist is attacking for 4 instead of for 6.
Yeah, it's definitely good. Yeah, I've actually accidentally boarded in against Jund before because he was playing like the 4-color Jund, and I thought it was some I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, so I brought it in, and it was as a fog effect when you're just absorbing life points back. Yeah. It's actually pretty effective.
When you're using life points as a resource like you tend to do. I know that whenever you're on camera, by the end of the game, it's 4-0 or 6-0.
Yeah. I will take damage for a long time, and Curse allows you to mitigate the damage.
Absolutely.
Well,
so another interesting sideboard, I don't want to say combo, but interaction you have is Ratchet Bomb, which as an Esper player, as a member of Team Ratchet Bomb, you are a big fan of Ratchet Bomb, bring it back to Sun Titan forever. It's now back in Standard, and you've paired it with Trading Post to be able to get even more Ratchet Bombs.
Right.
So how has that interaction been working out for you? Is that been working? That seems pretty janky.
It's pretty janky. It happens very rarely because there's so few of each of the card on the board. But by themselves, they're good against the aggressive decks, and combined, it's pretty unbeatable against the aggressive decks. You're getting 4 life. You're making a goat. You're stacking the goat, getting Ratchet Bomb back, ticking it up, dealing with their O-rings, which they always bring in against you.
Yep.
So Ratchet Bomb has a large range, if you will.
Excellent. So yeah, they're very good with each other, but also they're fine on their own.
Yes.
Being able to gain 4 life a turn, surprisingly effective against our current meta game of aggro decks.
It is the best Planeswalker against Blitz. It's a Planeswalker. The gaining 4 life is a mode that I wish any Planeswalker had.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be very powerful. So we also have some control cards in the sideboard. Rest in peace. I think we've all seen that before. Not as popular as it used to be, perhaps. You have a Psychic Spiral as well. For the control mirrors and also for the Grizzly Salvage decks. And Psychic Spiral's also an addition that is a concession to there being more Planeswalkers, or the change to the Planeswalker rule. So explain that real briefly for me.
All right, well, like you said, Psychic Spiral is the biggest reason for it is because Jace's memory depth, unchecked is game over usually. In this scenario, Psychic Spiral means an unchecked Jace memory depth is game over for your opponent. It's impossible to play around. It's impossible to see coming. Even if they think it's coming, they can't stop milling you. They can't stop drown yarding you. And it's one of those cards when drown yarded, you're not worried about because you have 3 Snapcaster mages to buy it back.
Right.
So it's an eventuality. And when you have it in your hand, or you have a Snapcaster in your hand, and you have a negate or 2, you plan the entire game, you slow play it, you look frustrated, and then at the end of the game, you kill them with 1 shot. And it happens pretty often.
Absolutely, and in decks like yours, where you can either Aetherling or Drown Yard, or Jace, but you can either mill or deal damage, you have 3 Snapcasters. So even if you have Psychic Spiral and all 3 Snapcasters in your bin, your opponent might not know you don't have the 4th Snapcaster. So you can sort of play this game, like try play a little mind game, like, I wonder if I can actually mill him. And it's a very efficient card for the Control Mirror.
And Control Mirror is already very, I've championed this over the years. It's very skill intensive. It's very pins and needles, you know? Aggro is much more linear when you're playing against it. You know what to do, you gotta survive. Control, when there's so many ways to win, like you said, you have Jace, you have Draenor, you have Soorani, you have Tamio Ultimate, which is pretty much game over also. You have my main deck, Evil Twin, that I saw over there also. There's different ways to win, and that makes it it creates many more lines of play to get to the end of the game.
Sure. One last question I have you ever lived the dream of drawing 10 off of Jace Memory Adept with Tamio Emblem?
Never done that.
No? Rats.
I have drown yarded myself many times. Actually, last week in the last round of the Open, I ultimate Tamio with no cards in hand against a pretty rough board state against Jund. He had spells and creatures out and all that. And luckily, drown yard, gets you back in the Ancestral Recall turn is pretty good.
Yeah, a land that can Ancestral Recall you. Can't argue against that. So you're going for your 5th straight Invitational top 8.
We'll see how long it can last here.
Exactly. It hasn't ended yet, so why stop now? All of them with Esper.
-1. I cheated 1 time. I had mono blue wizards 1 time. I cheated on my Esper deck.
Okay, fair enough. Well, 3 out of 4 ain't bad.
Right.
And
I still have Talrand. You gotta play Talrand.
Yeah, Talrand's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, Talrand's a cool creature.
The old Pyromancer.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and in Legacy, what are you playing?
Esper.
Esper as well? Yeah. I guess I shouldn't have even asked.
Right, that's the same Tom Martell list from ages ago. 1 Vindicate, 1 Intuition,
And Lingering Souls.
Yeah, and Lingering Souls. If it ain't broke, you don't fix it.
Exactly right. So, hey, it's worked out for you for the last year, so why stop now? Shaheen, good luck to you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining me in the sideboard. Shaheen Soorani, I'm Ruben Bressler here at the Star City Games Invitational.